We've been making these YouTube videos now for over 5 years. And 4 years ago, I made a video showing people the equipment which we were using to make them. Now, I haven't actually gone back and remade that video or come back to it at all really as a subject since then. So I thought, well, it's a new year. It's 2021 now. Let's finally remake that video and go over the equipment which we actually use ourselves and have picked day to day to make these videos. Let's start with the cameras. For nearly all of this channel's history, we've used the Canon C300 Mark II. At the time, 5 years ago, it was the only real choice for great image quality, pro video features, and autofocus that we could rely on to track my face in the piece to cameras. Which, as I was making these videos by myself for the first year or so, was incredibly important. But now, in 2021, we've lots of choices that can do that, but we've stuck with Canon. We now use either the C500 Mark II or the C300 Mark III for the piece to cameras, depending on which one we have access to at the time. The main reason we've stuck to Canon is very simple. It's what we're used to. We need to make these videos really quite quickly to fit within our busy schedules. So although we have access to many different cameras which would all be capable of doing the job, sticking with just one brand means that we can work as quickly as possible and produce consistent results. And the Canon cameras are an easy choice for us anyway. The image quality is great, the autofocus is very reliable, and they have all the ports and connectors which we need for this setup. For the product shots and the B-roll, we do mix up the cameras and experiment a little bit more. Mostly though, we use either the same camera as the piece to camera so that it matches nicely, or the Canon R5. The R5 works great on a slider, and because it's much smaller than the C500, we can work nice and quickly. The 4K HQ mode in particular is a fantastic quality mode for a mirrorless camera, and the C-Log footage matches well with the piece to cameras. For lenses, the 24-70mm f2.8 is a go-to lens on the piece to cameras for the C500 Mark II, and on the C300 Mark III we often use the 35mm f1.4. In B-roll it obviously changes a lot depending on the product and the shot in particular, but Dan is very keen on using the Canon 85mm f1.4 as much as he can. It compresses the background down and just focuses on the product nicely. Underneath these cameras is normally the eImage GH06F with the 761AT solo legs, or the 100mm BRoll version, the GH10L with the 771 CT legs. The GH10L is a 100mm BRoll version with a higher payload, while the GH06F is a 75mm tripod but with a flat base to the 75mm BRoll so that it can be mounted on a slider if needed. Both of these tripods are fantastic, and if you need a decent tripod with all the fluid drag control and counterbalance which you would get on a higher end system, but at a decent price, I really recommend these eImage ones. We use them all the time. In the B-roll, we often use a slider. Before the R5 came along, we would have to use the GH06F head on the iFootage Shark S1 slider to do manual slides. And we've used this slider right since the beginning of this channel, and for a manual slider for decent weight cameras, it's brilliant. Now we have the R5 though, we can use a much smaller slider, and that makes motion control much easier to achieve quickly. So now we use the new iFootage Shark slider Nano, normally with their Gazelle tripod legs and K5 head, just to keep the setup light and convenient. The Nano lets you do motion control slider moves incredibly easily because the pan axis is built directly into the slider's carriage itself. So we can get better B-roll with it, and it's easier for us to do so. The teleprompter is the same Data Video TP300 iPad teleprompter that I've always used. It's very simple. It just reflects the screen and it lets the iPad do all the work. It's still going strong after all these years and is an easy recommend for anyone doing videos like this. The script isn't the only thing I need to see though while in front of the camera. We also have a large SWIP monitor setup so that I can see the shot and the framing while in front of the camera. Plus, it means Dan can see the lighting while he's adjusting them around me. We use a SWIT FM21 for this as it is well matched to the larger SWIT monitor which we use in post-production. Plus, It's easy to run off VLOX, and it takes SDI input from our SWIP Flow 500 wireless system. The SWIP wireless systems are a great middle ground alternative between less reliable Wi-Fi based products or higher priced industry standard brands like Teradek. This is the Flow 500, which is SDI and HDMI, but there's also models with further range like the Flow 2000 and a more affordable HDMI only option called the Curve 500. For audio, we normally keep it very simple indeed and just use a wireless lav mic. We have two Sennheiser AVX kits, which again we've used for years. These are still pretty much my favourite audio kits on the market, just because of how simple and reliable they are. I've never once had these drop out on me in the 5 years I've been using them, and I've used them in all sorts of environments, including lots of very busy trade show floors. The lav mic we actually use itself is the Sennheiser MKE Essential mic. It's a step up from the ME2 microphone that comes bundled with the AVX kits. It just sounds slightly better, it's better built, and it has a smaller capsule so it's easier to mount and hide, although we normally don't even bother hiding it and just have it clipped here on my front in shot for these videos. The part of our setup that definitely changes the most is the lighting. We're constantly experimenting with any new lights that come in through the showroom, of course, but there are a few solid staples that we keep coming back to time and time again. First up are Swit's flexible LED panels. Pair this with their softbox accessory and they are a fantastic soft key light that is very easy to work with because the panel itself is so lightweight. We can even hang them from a scissor clamp on the office ceiling like we've done here for the live streaming desk setup. Everything at this desk is lit with these, and often they're my fill light and sometimes even my key as well for the normal pista cameras. But the most common key light we use is an aperture fixture. At the moment it's the new 600D Pro as we're trying it out, but the 120D Mark II is the most common one we use. We normally use the larger aperture light dome to make this into a big soft key light, which is much more flattering than the 2x1 panels which we used to use. Obviously it's much physically larger and therefore more difficult to work with, but it's worth it. One light though that very quickly became the staple which we use on every single video is the Lupo Smart Panel. This little light is fantastic as a backlight. It's really quite bright and it has a very small beam angle for an LED panel. So you can have it on a boom arm like this eImage B83 arm or just a C-stand and get it directly behind and above your speaker. I used to light with a backlight over to one side of the frame, but it would light up just one side of me and often spill around onto my cheek or onto my nose even, which I just don't think looks very good in a backlight. With the boom arm, we can get the Lupo light wherever we need it without a light stand being in frame, which makes the backlight so much more subtle, and I just think it has made a big difference to our lighting. We keep post-production fairly simple. We use an iMac and edit in either Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve, depending on how much color work we need to do. If it's a simple video, then Final Cut is fine. But when we're doing a camera video where we're going to be showing footage, then we do prefer to work in Resolve because of its control over color. We do use a proper external monitor though, rather than just using a PC monitor. This is a Switz BMU243. It's a 24-inch 4K monitor, which importantly can use an X-Rite probe to calibrate itself. We do this every month or so, and it keeps the colors accurate. We don't need super accurate colors or wide color gamuts. We're only making YouTube videos after all. But we do need to know that the colors haven't drifted over time and that we aren't trying to grade out a green cast that is just down to the monitor, for example. This self-calibrating feature gives us a lot of peace of mind. A monitor like this can't really be plugged straight into the computer though. We use the Blackmagic Ultra Studio 4K Mini for this to give us a 4K output which bypasses the color profiles of the operating system. So Resolve and Final Cut can send whatever resolution and color profiles they want to the screen without the computer's operating system having to get involved. This means on our SWIP reference monitor we get nice detailed 4K videos and accurate colors. So there we go. That's the kit we actually use ourselves day to day in order to make these videos for this channel. Lots of it is of course going to be completely overkill for lots of situations, most people out there making YouTube videos, but having the right equipment is so important for making high quality work quickly. If you want to buy any of this stuff for your own work, or you just want any advice on putting together a set of kit that's more suited to you and to your budget, then of course just get in touch or head over to proav.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.